What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Fantasy Puck YouTube channel. But today is the first Fantasy Puck podcast, something we've wanted to do for the last 2 years since inception of this channel. I'm so happy we finally have gotten to this point. I'm your host, Mike, and with me today is my co-host, Chris. You guys are going to hear me refer to him as Clarky. That is my nickname for him. So if there's any confusion, guys, that is the reason why. Chris, welcome. I'm
Yeah,
excited. How are you feeling?
if there isn't like a third person behind the scenes that we're talking to that's named Clarky, that's just Mike's kind of nickname for me. But yeah, I'm excited. I think this podcast will allow us to get a little bit more in depth with some of the fantasy hockey trends, and it's more so just a chance for us to kind of like go over who we're liking throughout week to week and trends and kind of rises and fallers, which we'll cover in YouTube videos and stuff. It's just this allows us to get a little bit more in depth.
Yeah, because YouTube videos are sometimes a little shorter. We're
Mhm.
more crunched for time. This lets us just free flow and talk about our thoughts. So I think my plan right now is to be posting every Sunday. We did have some technical difficulties last week with scheduling and my lighting, which you're probably gonna hear us laugh about a few times on this. But so this video is probably, or this podcast is probably gonna come out today. So this is Thursday the 13th, and we've had, I guess you can say, 4 days of NHL hockey, but I don't think I even want to talk about that Nashville San Jose series. More of just what we've seen the last 2 nights, some thoughts on the players, some things we saw from just watching the games. And then we got sent a few teams. I shoved this out on YouTube, and if you're in the Discord, it was also shoved out in there. We were sent a few of your fantasy teams, so we're going to go through them. Um, Look at the league scoring, what pick you had, and give you an overall team rating to see how you guys did in your drafts. I'm sure there's a lot of biased fantasy puck picks in there. Trocheck, Hughes, Vander Kane. We're gonna see a lot of those guys. So I'm excited.
Yeah, huge shout out to you guys if you guys did take a chance to sign into your teams. Like Mike said, we're just going to give you guys a nice little grade. Thank you guys for participating in this. This is something that we kind of wanted to implement to involve the community a little bit more. And I think going forward, we can definitely do more of these if you guys like them. But I think it's just like a little kind of like fun thing where we're able to kind of like give you guys suggestions and maybe improvements depending on like your league size or your scoring or anything like that. Players that we like, players that we don't like, depending on your league settings. Because a lot of the time you guys ask us questions and it's very specific to what your league settings are. Like Mike and I always preach that like that's the number one thing that you have to draft towards is your league settings.
Yep.
Like for example, like Matt Barzell, I think is a player that like I think could have a really good season in the point department, but would I take him in like the third or fourth round in a categories league that has shots, hits, blocks, whatever, right? Like probably not. So it's just something that like we're able to again get more in depth with this podcast, and we're going to do our best to, for those of you listening, to try and like read off the names of where the players are in the categories and everything, so that you guys are not handcuffed with the YouTube guys. Those of you that are watching on YouTube will have all of the team names up on the screen and everything for you guys to follow along with as well. All
I
right,
think
Mike.
Barzal is more of like a guy that's really good in real life, but not that good in fantasy. I know in like, especially in fantasy baseball, when I play, there's like boring players, and Barzal is definitely in that boring player category. But yeah, guys. So, I mean, I feel like we're almost in class right now, and the teacher's telling us, okay, let's go walk around the room and do some introductions. And I feel like most of you guys probably don't know too much about Chris and I, but we're just hockey fanatics, and this Fantasy Puck channel started more of a passion project a few years ago. We were locked down for COVID, and I've been playing fantasy hockey for, I think, since 2010. I was kind of trying to think about it, and I remember playing over on pickuphockey.com, which I don't know if you remember, but in our first year, that's where we drafted.
Yes, I do
Um,
remember
and I
that.
and I remember you took Tavares on when he was on the Islanders. So um, that's when
Foreshadowing.
I first started playing, and I'll never forget my first year. I drafted Ilya Kovalchuk. So if we can go back and see when Kovalchuk was back on the Thrashers, I think that was my first year of fantasy. So I've been playing my whole life. I guess when I understood how fantasy worked, and still playing to this day, active in a ton of leagues. And I just wanted to, translate my knowledge and my passion for it onto YouTube and try and give you guys the best experience possible, help you win your leagues. I know a lot of people play in money leagues, especially with their friends. Um, and yeah, again, more of a passion project. when I had a lot of free time, and now it's turned into almost an everyday thing where it's on my mind all day. I come home, I just want to grind out fantasy puck, look at all the players, all the analysis, who's doing well. I think the hard thing about this channel sometimes is we make so many takes, and I would say it's almost like a 50% success rate, maybe a little bit more than that. And getting the backlash, it's fun, but I love the discussion. I love doing this. And last year there was just a lot going on, and I brought Chris on this year to help make videos. So we were roommates in university. You guys probably can hear a little bit about that. And another really big hockey fan, he could probably touch on that. And the big thing for Chris is he is a diehard / very biased Leafs fan.
Whoa, very biased?
Very biased takes, like picking up Dennis Mulligan probably.
Stop.
And there's going to be arguments on here, but that's just the fun of it. So, Chris, if you want to do a little introduction to make the teacher and the rest of the class happy.
Okay. Yeah, Mike's right. I'm a Leafs fan. I will admit I'm biased at some points, but I think a lot of the time, like, there's justification behind it. Here we go. It's already started now that Mike's brought it up.
Podcast one, welcome.
So,
Pilot.
yeah, I like way back in the day, like just doing a league with my friends, doing fantasy hockey. I forget where it first started, but one of the very early memories that I have is doing like a fantasy hockey league with my family, actually, which is really bizarre. So I'm from a family of 5. Like my brother and my dad are both like super huge Leafs fans as well. So we decided to do like a fantasy hockey league one year. We included the rest of my family, my mom, my sister, and we would have like these printouts of like points in every category, every side. It was just a points league. Like it was something super straightforward, and we included some goalies as well in it, and we just did wins. But I remember one year my dad drafted both the Sedins. Like we let him get both the Sedins, and he just absolutely like demolish the rest of us. So that's one yeah that's one of my very early fantasy hockey memories. But no, like Mike and I met in university. We were both huge hockey fans, obviously, playing in leagues and money leagues growing up as well, doing things like daily or DFS and stuff. That was something that we were super into in university as well, where we put a lot of time. And that's kind of where like I think the knowledge curve kind of like took off for us.
Yeah,
is when like DFS and stuff started to become a regular thing in our life, where we were just like hunting players that were like shot and block machines.
Yeah.
And it helps. It helps with, yeah, it helps with your guys' leagues as well too, because you just get such a broad knowledge of like every player on every team, like what they're good at. Like Mike liked to talk a lot about like what defensemen played a lot of minutes, because it just like gives them more opportunity to have more events on the ice.
Not promoting gambling though.
Yeah, no, but they were just. I forgot that it's a very touchy subject right now, apparently, but that just like allowed us to kind of like broaden our hockey knowledge into something that's more streamlined into fantasy sports. And so we've been doing this for a long time, guys. And like Mike said, like we're not going to be right on every single take this year. Like we know that, we're aware of that. But like there's reasoning for our picks, and I think that like there's justification. Obviously, like things happen. For example, like let's say all of a sudden Rod Brind'Amour is just like, yeah, I'm gonna put Seth Jarvis on the 4th line, and we've been preaching Jarvis being on Aho's line for the whole year. Like that's stuff that's like out of our control, and that's stuff that like coaches just do to either mix things up or try and get a different look on their team. So. Obviously, like it's not going to be 100% a lot of the time, and hopefully you guys understand that. But for the most part, I think a lot of our takes are justified and have reasoning behind them outside of the fact that we're just like, yeah, I like this guy.
Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I think a little bit of an agenda for today. We're just going to go through some of the players or some of the things we saw last night, especially guys we had high conviction on, because I feel like most of the viewers drafted a lot of those players. So I really want to touch on those, and then. Again, we were sent some of your teams, so we're going to grade them. So let's just jump in right away here. The first note, so I do have some notes on my screen here. I'm pointing at my screen like people on Spotify can see this, but
you're the teacher, Mike.
See me pointing.
We're all following along on the PowerPoint here.
Yeah, raise your hand before you speak. So the first guy I have here, Sean Dursey, someone that, and I kind of make sleepers lists as I go about the season. Like I haven't started it yet this year, but sometimes in December I start my sleeper list. Dursey was someone that I had on there really early. So in the first game for LA, Dursey led all LA Kings players in ice time with 22 minutes and 53 seconds. He had a good game, 5 blocks, 3 hits, 3 shots, and an assist. And something I was thinking about a couple days ago was if you're looking to draft a defenseman with upside, oh, look at the light coming in. See, we're going to laugh about the lighting here in my basement. But now the light's coming
I'm
in,
trying
my
not to
face is
say anything.
glowing.
I'm trying not to say anything.
It's as soon as I talked about Sean Dursey, the lights just started beaming through my window here.
Maybe that's a sign.
I think it is, yeah. But something I was thinking about a little bit is like if you're looking to draft a high upside defenseman, you almost want to draft the number 2 on a team where the number 1 has a history of injury or is like he might lose his spot, right? So I think Sean Dursey plays perfectly into that role with Doughty. When I did the projections this year, we had his reliability percentage at I think 65%, meaning he's missed at least 35% of games in the last few seasons. And Dursey's the next man up there. If he ends up being that guy, Doughty gets injured, he becomes a top 10 to 15 defenseman. And in the early looks right now, it seems to, he's playing the most minutes. So I'm interested to see how Dursey pans out here. But I think in like 14-team leagues, like, he's definitely worth an ad.
Yeah, I think he, like you said, it's hard as you go through like the later rounds of your draft to find value a lot of the time. And I think Dursey, just given the fact that like Doughty's had, like you said, like an injury history, is a really good option. He's slated in the top 4 right now. He's playing with Matt Roy, and yeah, like a solid first game just to keep an eye on him as things progress. The one thing that I'm interested to see with LA is can like their deep young forwards kind of take a step. Like we saw guys like Gabe Vilardi have a really good camp. Quentin Byfield's on the team now. I remember hearing that he's just a lot more confident now after coming off of a year of like that huge injury. Like this point last year, like he was in an ankle brace because he shattered his ankle, right? So obviously like not something you want to do within your first like year of development, but we'll see how that kind of trends. And then Victor Arvidsson was also in the lineup, so that kind of pushes people down. Like we expected Arthur Kaliev to potentially be on that second line there. And so what am I getting at here when it comes to Dursey? Well, it's just like these are the guys that are impacting him when he's on the power play, right? So if Gabe Vilardi, if Quentin Byfield, if Arthur Kaliev start getting like really good looks and Sean Dursey's the guy running that second power play unit, like Dursey's going to have production, which is, again, late round value that we're looking for, especially in deeper league teams. And if he's getting over or close to 20 minutes a night, like I definitely agree with you. I think he's a great pickup.
Yeah, I think his ownership right now, and this was tweeted on our Twitter, obviously, not tweeted on anything else, that he's 28% owned right now. I did add him in my last video too, so he should be available in some of those leagues. He's definitely worth a speculative ad early on. Yeah, I actually heard Gabe Vilardi had one of the best camps. I read, I didn't hear it. I read that he had one of the best camps for LA. So he'll be interesting to watch this year. Looks like he started on the third line there with Byfield. Someone that, we joke about a little bit, but it's going to be interesting to see how this LA team pans out. So the next guy I have on my list here, Riley Smith. I think this guy could be a long-term ad in 12-team leagues. And for that 12 to 13% ownership he has right now on Yahoo, it's definitely worth adding him. He had 6 shots in his first game, skating alongside Eichel, which is where we really liked him. We saw over in Buffalo, Eichel made Jeff Skinner not only a millionaire beyond his wildest dreams, but he also made him a 40-goal scorer. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Riley Smith-Eichel combination pans out. He is on that right wing, or he is right wing eligible. So, that's a very scarce position. So I do think Riley Smith is very intriguing early on. It looks like he did get some power play one time too on Vegas, but they are a team that does it like two different power plays. So, Theodore's on power play 1, and then Petrangelo's power play 2. And then they kind of roll out pretty even lines between the two. It's kind of hard. Like they don't really have a power play 1. They have like a power play 1A and a power play 1B. But I love Riley Smith's long-term outlook here. I think he can be a very, very good ad early on. I don't know what his upside would be. I would say probably 30 goals, 60 points. I can't really, say that he's going to get anything more than that. But very interesting early on. I think you shouted this out as well.
Yeah, he was in the waiver list, and just someone that like we were expecting Kessel to be on that line and have Eichel and Stone playing together, but it looks like they've split them up. The one thing I will say about Smith is he's had some injury trouble in the past couple of years. Last year he played 56 games and had 38 points, 150 shots. Doesn't really hit too much, only 55 hits. But the real upside is that he's playing line one, and what I'm worried about is like, yeah, he's a good pickup option, but they also have Marchessault slated on the third line as well with William
Yeah.
Karlsson, which I don't expect to continue. I think going forward, like Marchessault should be playing in the top six, but it's curious what they're kind of doing, splitting up their lineup a little bit like that. Kessel's still on the first line, but the big thing that I'm excited about with Riley Smith is he's probably going to get dual eligibility. I believe the way that Yahoo works is you have to start 9 games at that position in order for you to
Okay.
gain eligibility. So Riley
I didn't
Smith
know
is
that.
right now slated as a right winger, but his first game he played with Eichel on the left wing and Kessel was on the right wing. So if that continues for the first like latter half of the season, like Smith will gain dual eligibility, I believe.
Yeah, that's so important, especially nights like last night, which would be the 12th, where I don't know if you had any leagues where you had a full team starting, but I had Besser on my bench in one of my leagues. I started Jarvis over him because it was just my forwards were full.
I
But
didn't think I honestly didn't think Besher would have been ready for game one due to
yeah,
like the injury.
yeah, he looked okay last night. Well, we'll get to that. So another note I have here, Allmark and Swayman. So early reports said that they're going to split time for at least the first 4 games of the season. And Allmark was really good last night against the Capitals, 33 saves on 35 shots. They won 5-2 on the road, the Bruins. This is interesting, but it's something we kind of knew. I think when I did the projections, I had Swayman at 60% start percentage. And I guess it might have to come down to 50% given this news, but it's almost like the same situation in Toronto where it's like earn your net. So it's going to be interesting to see how this shakes out. And actually, my big league, the one, I don't know if you saw when I wrote in the group chat last night, Duchesne got dropped in my big league,
I saw
and
that. Yeah.
Swayman also got dropped in my big league.
Wow.
And I have Stuart Skinner on my bench. So I think I'm going to try and add both,
For
but
sure.
I'm going to put a claim in and see what happens. I think Duchesne is a no question add. And
100%.
then Swayman too. I mean, especially if I have Stuart Skinner. Like I like Skinner. I took him with my last pick, but I mean, Swayman was drafted in the top 100. I can't believe he was dropped. This is interesting news right away.
Yeah, guys, if you own Jeremy Swayman, do not panic. Like Mike said, it's probably going to be the same thing as what the Leafs are doing. They're just going to give each goalie a little bit of a taste. The one thing that I did notice, and that was kind of towards the season end last year, was Allmark was getting the majority of the starts. And that just so happened to be like in fantasy playoffs. So a lot of people were upset with that. Like I knew a couple of my buddies that own Swayman that were like, "Why isn't this guy starting? He's been playing so well." And like Boston's very much like they'll just give the majority of starts to whoever has the hot hand.
A hot hand. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree.
So I think
I
that
agree.
going forward, if you own Swayman, like don't panic. Obviously, like he's the goalie of the future. Like Olmark is kind of still in his prime, where Swayman is just kind of establishing himself as a starter right now. And I would pair them up. Like if we're talking split percentage, I think it's closer to 50-50, Mike, personally.
Yeah.
Just because, yeah, Boston's very much like just play whoever has the hot hand. And Olmark had a really good end of the season last year as well. But if you guys have Swayman, like don't drop him. Like why are we dropping Jeremy Swayman because he didn't start the first game?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if you look at the history of the way that like goalies have been split in Boston, like Swayman's going to see playing time. And this is just like, we're so early. Like we played 2 games already in the National Hockey League and we're already dropping guys like Duchesne and Swayman. Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, like that were drafted in the top 100. And I think going back to the end of the season last year, so I misheard you at first, but so actually in like the NHL playoffs, not the fantasy playoffs, which is what you were referring to, Allmark actually was really bad, and Swayman ended up taking over and having a couple good starts in that Carolina series. And that's why I was a little bit higher on Swayman this year, and that's why I did the 60-40 split, because Allmark actually struggled in playoffs, and then they went to Swayman, but it looks like it's going to be 50-50. It makes sense. It's a new season. Moving on here, and I think I'll touch on this player, and then we can talk about the game after we get through all the
Oh,
players.
perfect. Okay.
Caden Goalie, it looks like he was first pairing with Matheson out. I recommended Matheson, didn't know he was hurt. It looked like he was getting he's week to week right now. So, I mean, I really liked Matheson. I thought he was going to play on that power play one. He was first pairing, but Goalie played first pair last night with Matheson out. He played almost 23 minutes. I think he's worth an add in 14 to 16 team league bangers. And then if you're in a dynasty league, he's definitely worth it. He was a first round pick. And he is just a big, strong defenseman, and he looked really good last night.
Yeah, unfortunately, I watched the game last night. It was a good game, all in all. The other guy to kind of keep an eye on is Arbor Jacki. He shouldn't be as established, or at least he won't get as much time as like Caden Goalie will, for example. But he's actually, fun fact, he's actually the only player in the NHL whose last name starts with an X.
Really?
So fun fantasy trivia for you guys there. But Arbor Jacki had 12 minutes, just under 13 minutes time on ice. He had 4 hits and 1 block. Very young defenseman, wasn't drafted, I believe. I believe he was just kind of like made the team out of camp.
Stories.
Yeah, very, very good story. Had 2 shots as well, but just look for him to kind of, maybe establish himself in the lineup a little bit. I think he'd be a really good option as a bangers league. So I believe he played in the American Hockey League last year. I'm not 100% sure. But he's known for being very physical as well. So that's just somebody to kind of like keep an eye on along with Goalie. Because a lot of weren't expected to make the team, honestly. But Montreal's going a little bit young, especially on their decor, which is good. I think like that's how you want to like establish players into the NHL right away and develop them and kind of progress through them. So if we want to talk about the game, I really don't. But the one big, as a Leafs fan, and I might ramble a little bit here, so stop me if I get too off course. This won't be.
I warned you guys about this. Is what I warned everybody about.
This won't be fantasy hockey related too much, but I just want to say my 2 cents about the Leafs' first game as a Leafs fan that's gone through it for the past basically my whole life essentially. The one thing that looked very concerning to me was the defense. And Jake Muzzin and Justin Hall.
Oh, the legend Hall, he's the best
Looked
on the Leafs.
Looked so like just out of place. And I get it's the first game, and Muzzin's coming off of some back injury, but it wasn't just them. Like Giordano had a couple instances where he was just getting burned, and so like the Hall and Muzzin thing has been an issue for the Leafs like for a couple like years now. And so I don't understand why they're still getting played together. I don't know what Sheldon Keefe is thinking. I personally think that Muzzin and Hall both should have been gone during the offseason just because, like, with Muzzin, we talked about this. I think we talk about this every time we bring up the Leafs. It's like he's just at the point in his career where he's no longer able to play the game that he's effective at, which is be physical, box people out, and then, like, use your body to be effective. And with Muzzin, like, the fact that his skating is now declined to where it is, he's just not able to play that game, and he's had injury history, and he hasn't played a full season in like 4 or 5 seasons. So other than that, it was a fun game to watch though. Like Cole Caulfield looked really good.
Oh my God,
will say
he was sick, and I can't believe I didn't draft him anywhere, although it is game 1, but wow, that guy was sick last night. Him and Suzuki are...
Suzuki's
like,
gross,
scary,
man. I love
scary
Suzuki.
good.
I actually really like Suzuki.
Okay, I just want to say about Muzzin, name another defenseman last night that went end to end and walked 2 guys and almost scored on Jake Allen.
Oh God, here
Jake
we
Muzzin
go.
Was the guy.
Yeah, maybe we should put him on forward. He'll be less of a liability defensively. Yeah,
then he'll get defenseman forward eligibility in fantasy. Yeah, so you guys are going to hear a lot of rambling, a lot of we should blow the team up and make a bunch of trades. It's going to be a common theme, and I just sit back and laugh. We do have a group chat with a couple Leafs fans, so I just sit there and just stir the pot as much as I can. But hopefully we have some Leafs fans that are listening or watching, and you can give us your takes on this. But I think we can move on a little bit. We do have some players to get through here, and I don't want to keep it. I think I want to keep it under an hour if we can. So Ricard Raquel, It looks like he is starting the season on line 1 with Gensel and Crosby. And he's a must-add across all leagues, 10, 12, 14, 16-team leagues. This line is going to dominate, and they dominated last year without Raquel, with Russ there. And it looks like they're trying to even the lines out a bit. And another big thing I want to mention, and someone in the Discord was shouting this out a little bit, it's not when they'll get injured. Or it's not if they'll get injured. It's when they'll get injured. That top 6, like Malkin, Crosby, Gensel, Rust, Letang, those guys are all injury prone. They're all Band-Aids. And if Raquel's skating that top 6, he's going to be the next guy up to play on that top power play unit. So I think Raquel's a must-add in all leagues. I think the Penguins play tonight, the 13th, so it'll be interesting.
They get Arizona
to see
tonight,
his deployment. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah, so Brian Rust hasn't played over 70 games, hasn't played over 60 games in the last 3 seasons. Gensel's a little bit more consistent, so I wouldn't be too worried if you're a Gensel owner. But yeah, Raquel is a guy that you could have gotten in the last like two picks of your drafts. And, you know, Mike, you were on him right away from the beginning, like top six upside, playing with Crosby or Malkin. He's a very like versatile winger as well. Like we were talking about him when he was on Anaheim. It's like, man, like if we got to see this guy on a different team, like he'd be such a better, like just have more people surrounding him, you know? Great shot volume. Guy loves to shoot the puck.
He hits too.
No, I don't think so. Well,
yeah, I think he does.
Yeah, okay. No. You're right. 99 hits last year. That's. Yeah. I was looking at the split with Pittsburgh where I saw 38, and I was like, wait a second.
Yeah.
But you're right. No, like very good shot volume guy as well. That you're able to get later in your drafts. He's might be readily available. I'm gonna look up his own percentage right now, actually. But 184 shots last year is a lot for a guy that you're able to grab in the last couple rounds. Yeah, he's currently 37% owned on Yahoo, so definitely should be available to you guys. And if he's playing line 1, like even more upside.
Yeah, plus minus leagues too. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I think this player allows us to segue into the 10 p.m. game. I only watched the first period last night of the Edmonton game. Oh my God, Campbell.
I ended up watching the whole game. It was really fun.
Yeah, those games, like first thing I said, so I got home, I watched the Leafs game at a friend's house, got home, and I'm like, okay, hammer the over in this game because Jack Campbell is not, there's no chance he lets in less than 3 goals. Sure enough, first 2 minutes, Campbell just 2 Swiss cheese goals. And I think, you know, my eyes were a little bit on Kuzmenko, who had a power play goal, which I didn't see, and I'll let you speak to his power play goal. You know, he didn't look lost, but it looks like he's still trying to find his footing a little bit out there, but he looks solid, and Patterson was just absolutely dominating last night.
Yeah.
But my eyes were on Evander Kane, someone that we had high conviction on. Eviction's probably not the right word there. And so he looked pretty good. Like he had a lot of good scoring chances. Like his shot is so deceptive and so good. And then I don't know if you saw at the end of that first period when he crushed Kyle Burrows, and then Nurse just came in and absolutely like Evander Kane crushes him, and then Nurse just comes in for no reason, like plays over, puck's not even near him, and just hammers him, gets an interference penalty. Like
typical Darnell Nurse.
Just hilarious.
$9 million.
Yeah, but Evander Kane, I looked it up. He skated 12 minutes with McDavid and another 9 minutes with Draisaitl, and some of it probably was stacked where they were playing as a line, but he looked good last night. Offensive chances were there. He was still playing the body. You know, a lot. I think it's gonna be a good season for Kane. I liked what I saw last night, but man, that Edmonton team shuffles their lines like I've never seen before.
I know.
If they're losing or they have one bad shift, it's like, all right, Draisaitl, McDavid, go together, go out there. Puljujärvi, play with them. Tyler Benson, play with them. It's insane to see. But what did you see last night in that game?
Well, I'm going to start things off because we're on the Evander Kane subject line here. 8 hits last night. 8. Wow. So already just throwing the body around. He had 3 shots, which is solid. And like guys, like we talked about him. He was in my like so many of my like must-own videos, like must-own players, like best player in each round video. Like he is a poor man's Brady Tkachuk right now with the upside of playing with Connor McDavid. And that is like, to me, like that's like 2nd, 3rd round value. Like you could, if you reached on Kane this year, you're going to be rewarded, I think. As long as the guy stays healthy and like aside from all the line shuffling and everything, like he should consistently see time with McDavid or Draisaitl. It doesn't matter which is which. If they end up both playing on the same line, chances are Kane's going to be that third forward. I can't imagine that they just throw a different body up there. Maybe they could do something where they do like a Nuge, Kane, and Hyman as their second line, and maybe just throw a guy that I'm really excited for, and I drafted Dylan Holloway on the first line, and I just want to touch on him quickly. He was a little bit out of place and kind of got shuffled into the lineup because there were so many penalties in that game, man. Like it was,
there was a lot.
It was unbelievable how many penalties there were. But Dylan Holloway had 2 shots, 4 hits. I want to look up his time on ice right now, but
high. It was like 11 or 9. It wasn't a lot.
So how many penalties do you think were in the game, Mike?
So I can speak a little bit to this because in the Leafs game, there was a lot of penalties, a lot of really weak penalties, those cross checks. And then that Tampa Rangers game, there was a ton of penalties too. So I'm going to say 9.
There were a total of 12 power plays in that game.
Oh my God. Like
Vancouver went 1 for 8.
Really?
And Edmonton was 3 for 4.
Well, that's no surprise.
Yeah. The other thing is, I completely lost my shit. McDavid hat trick, like shocker, absolute shocker
this year.
Yeah, and if he's shooting the puck more this year, especially, I think Leon Draisaitl talked about it. I was listening to 32 Thoughts one year, and he was like, "Yeah, man, I feel like this guy needs to shoot the puck more." That's terrifying. He already has a crazy high shot volume to begin with, and if he's like zoned in and like looking to shoot the puck more, do you think, I want to get your opinion on this, do you think McDavid could put up 150 points in a season?
Oh my God. 150?
150.
So that's almost 2 points per game. I think no.
Okay.
Yeah, I just think this league is so hard right now. And like, I mean, scoring's up, but it's not where it used to be when people were getting 150. I think it takes like a magical season to get 150. Like everything needs to go right. Like they need to be dominating. They need to be scoring a ton. But I think just in my analytical / math mind, I don't know how possible it is. I think so we projected him for 128 points this year, and that's the highest of his career. So that would mean he needs to get 15% more than our projection, which is already at a career high. So he needs to really have a ceiling year. 150, I don't know. We haven't seen 150 since what, Lemieux?
Yeah, it's like into the 90s. So the way that I look at it, like you say 150 and it sounds so daunting, right? Like you're just like, yeah, that's impossible. But the way that I look at it is it's like 2 to 3 points a game, right? And for a guy like McDavid, like I'm pretty sure at the beginning of the season last year, within the first, like I just remember him being like ridiculous within the first 2 weeks. The odds of him, like the over under for him on points was like 4 at one point. Like it was just something ridiculous where like he was just on an absolute tear. So I think if he stays healthy, I don't know, like 150 is a little bit of a stretch. The only reason why I said that is because like it's a ridiculous number, and we have him projected for 120 already. So it's like, do you think he could hit that extra level? And like he's just now entering his prime. Like he's 25, right? So that's crazy to say that there might be another level to McDavid. I just wanted to hear your take on that.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he took that dumb cross-checking penalty last night, which he was not happy about, it was the clearest cross-checking.
He also had 5 hits last game, which is, look out. Look out, Brady.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that game was interesting. I liked what I saw from, I mean, Quinn Hughes looks sick too, man, but as always.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So moving on here, Alexander Holtz, and we can just keep this short, really. It's just a little news. I saw that he was starting the year on line 3. I did say that he was worth a pickup in 14-plus team leagues. You know, he's a rookie, so it's going to shuffle around. So I'm curious to see if he does end up with Hughes and Palat, which I think his name's Dawson Mercer. I always call him Dakota, and I don't know why. But
did he go to the University of North Dakota? Is that it?
No, he didn't. But yeah, it looks like Dawson Mercer starting on that Hughes Palat line, which I'm gonna be watching that game most likely. I'm so curious to see how good Hughes is gonna be tonight. But yeah, just a quick news update. Looks like he's starting the year on line 3. I probably still wouldn't drop him, and I am still happy with our Calder bet at plus 2,500. Moving on, Max Domi. Now, I don't know, you might be surprised I'm talking about this guy here, but
dude, like,
hey, anyone that's playing with Patrick Kane is worth it. Is worth looking at. He's getting the chance to play line 1 with them. He is playing power play 1. I think in 14-team leagues that don't have plus minus, he's worth a speculative ad just because he's playing with Patty Kane. And he's playing 19 minutes a night. But I don't really think he's that good. It's just Patty Kane.
Yeah, the other interesting thing is he's center. Like, he's the center on that line. And I can't remember a time where I've seen Max Domi as the center on any line. Like, to me, he...
Was he in Columbus? We're losing credibility here fast.
that man, like, if you honestly
I don't watch Columbus.
If you're on YouTube right now and you're watching this, leave a comment down below. Don't look it up. Like, have some morality here. Was Max Domi ever a center at any point in his career? Maybe on the Habs?
Yeah, I don't know. Anyways,
I like, if you're in a deep league, like, I don't, and like you said, if you don't count plus minus, like, I don't think it's the worst take I've heard. I'm just an advocate of, I would rather look at literally any other team other than Chicago. Like, I think there's good depth at other teams as well. Like, you look at Seattle, a lot of the wingers there now that have a track record of being, like, scoring wingers. Like, you've got Burakovsky, Schwartz, Bjorkstrand, McCann. Like, even Eberle, I would look to pick up one of those guys over Max Domi. I get that he's playing with Kane, and Patrick Kane is a one-of-one type player, but I am under the impression that Kane's going to be out the door a lot sooner than people think.
Where's he going?
He's going to the Rangers.
Yeah,
that's my prediction. My brother actually called that, and the more and more I looked into it, it's just like, yeah, that makes so much sense. Reuniting him with Panarin.
Trocheck season.
Trocheck season, baby. Let's go.
Let's go.
While we're on the topic of Seattle, I just wanted to touch on Shane Wright really quickly. If you guys did ended up drafting him, especially like in a deeper league, just because like you're hoping first of all that he makes the team, right? And so he established a spot on the team. He had a very small average time on ice last year in comparison to some of the other forwards. And he's currently and he's currently, like, he had only 6 minutes time on ice.
That's all he played?
Yeah. So he's slated.
I saw he had 2 minutes in the first period, but I laughed.
He's slated to scale on the 4th line right now with Ryan Donato and Carson Kuhlman.
Just send him down. Like,
and he didn't record a single shot, hit, block.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So if you guys did draft Shane Wright, I would probably, you know what? Hold him for like the first week or two. See what happens with the lineup. They have so many centers on this team. Like, I didn't even think he was going to make the team to begin with. And if he did, I'm like, okay, where is he playing? Because they have Beniers, they have Wenberg, they have Yanni Gord, they have Jared McCann. Like, I think James Schwartz even played center. Like, I've listed 5 centers at this point. And so, like, there's just really no spot for him on the team. And I'm surprised that he's even there to begin with if he's only getting 6 minutes of ice.
Yeah, that's crazy. Just send him down at that point. Maybe they're just giving him his 9 games and they're going to send him down. That's probably
that could be it.
Happen.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, so just keep an eye on that. Like, I get it. Like, he's a very talented player, supposed to be like I don't want to say generational, but like an elite talent, like a franchise-esque talent.
Status, I think, in the
he was, yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised if he gets sent down. I'm kind of surprised that he's in the lineup altogether. But if you did draft him, you're kind of looking at, I would start to just look at other options.
Yeah. And the light's coming back in right now, so maybe there's light on Shane Wright. But
we need a memes channel where, like, they just clip things from the podcast. And maybe they just start playing some Weekend every time the light comes on in your room. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, so maybe there's some light on the next guy we're talking about here. My boy, Seth Jarvis.
That was a great segue, by the way. Like a 10 out of 10.
Thank you. He had the second most 5-on-5 ice time amongst Hurricanes forwards, behind only Svechnikov, and it was only 10 seconds less. And he was on that power play 1. Guess who led the Canes in power play 1, or actually just power play ice time? Can't really say. I think he must be power play 1. But guess who led?
Dougie? No, Dougie's on New Jersey. What I'm saying, Burns.
No, Paul
Really?
Stastny.
Paul Stastny.
And my guess was I bet you he was just taking the faceoffs because I think he's like a 55+% faceoff.
That
but yeah,
that could be it. I'm surprised.
Good.
Like, wow. Okay.
yeah. So good signs from Seth Jarvis early on. Thank you, Seth. This guy was drafted, and he was probably one of our highest. Was he in your 10 must draft players video?
Yes, he was
Okay, good.
he was the only guy outside of the first 11 rounds that was in the must draft players list.
He could be taking over Kevin Fiala's spot the last 2 years for most talked about player on our channel. Like this is the breakout season incoming. This guy could be point per game this year. We'll see what happens, but he did score. He looked. I watched the goal. Him and Aho were just working in the corner. He walked out, little backhander. I think it was Tarasov in net. It
Yes.
wasn't Merzlikins, but
He
so,
Merzlikins was out with an illness. That's why Tarasov
of course I
kind of got
draft him, and that
thrown
happens.
him.
No.
It should be short term. You're fine.
Yeah, but yeah, so Jarvis looked good last night. I drafted him almost everywhere, so I mean, hopefully it pays off, and hopefully you guys drafted him too.
Yeah, like Carolina looked solid. Obviously, like they were matching up against a weaker Blue Jackets team. First game of the season. Like I called him Dougie. I can't believe I called him Dougie. Burns 6 shots.
Really?
So
Good to
that's trending in the right direction. Didn't record a point, unfortunately, and he didn't have a hit or a block, which was kind of surprising. And he did play 22 minutes. So if you drafted Brent Burns, like you love to see that shot volume continue because that's like what he's known for. And if he can put together a couple games like this where he gets you 6-7 shots, like he's going to be close to that 250, 300 mark back what he used to be. But yeah, Seth Jarvis, like guys, like there wasn't a more obvious take in their final rounds of your draft other than Seth Jarvis. Like there's so much upside. He's young, he's talented, he's pretty much guaranteed a first line spot in Carolina because of the way that their lineup construction was last year. Like just an unbelievable pick. I know you think that like he's the most talked about player, but I think Jack Hughes will give him a run for the money this year.
Yeah,
that's my personal pick for most talked about player on FP. Guys, leave a comment if you're on YouTube. Leave a comment down below on who is the most talked player between Mike and I. I might talk about a player a little bit more than Mike does, but it's like Seth Jarvis has to be up there, and he had a great stat line last night as well. Got in on the hits category. Like he had 2 hits, 4 shots, 1 block. He plays penalty kill as well. He actually had more time on ice than Svechnikov did, which is something to
total time on ice. Yeah, because that
total
power
time
play.
on ice. Yeah.
Interesting.
So something to keep an eye on. Another guy that I want to touch on the Canes is my boy Martin Necas, who recorded a 3-point night last night, had 2 shots. I don't know how many 3-point nights he's going to have, but this is a good step in that direction for Necas. Again, like I just saw a player that was
Necas.
Is it
I think you're
Necas?
gonna shred it a little bit here. I think it's Necas.
Listen, if I get blown up in the comments because I said knee instead of nay, I'll soak that personally. But Necas was he was great last night. I didn't watch the full game. I only saw a little bit of the highlights, but he looked very much at home. He is a very flashy player, but I'm excited for him this season, and he should be readily available. I think he's less than 20% owned in most leagues, so definitely keep an eye on him as we kind of progress things. Anything from the Columbus side?
Yes. So I guess this is another good segue. And I think I want to keep it short because I think we are running a little bit over our time slot here. And I do want to get to some of these teams that we're going to be rating. So this is a good segue into the injury reports. Patrick Laine did leave the game with an upper body injury, and he did score a nice goal. So not good for the Patrick Laine owners, but good for the people that have an open roster spot because it does look like Igor Chinikov moved up to the top line. I was trying to see who filled in there, and it looked like after the Laine injury, it was Chinikov, Gaudreau, Jenner on the first line. He did lead the preseason in goals, and some I talked about in the waiver wire ads video. So he's probably worth a speculative add in 14+ team leagues with this news. Other injury news, Jake DeBrusk left the game with an upper body injury. And my note literally says, left the game with an upper body injury, of course, because I drafted him and I was very high on Jake DeBrusk. He was power play 1, first line. But we'll have to keep an update on that. And then lastly, Vitaly Kravtsov. He's out for at least 2 games. He's not traveling with the team with an upper body injury. And Lafreniere is taking over that line 2 spot. I bet you had him in your notes and the lights coming out. So Lafreniere is going to be good. But I was reading a little bit that he's not comfortable on the right side. So it's going to be interesting to see how they shake things up. Yeah, he's not comfortable on that right side, and the left side is Kreider and Panarin. So
yeah, he better get comfortable on the right side.
You're a professional. You better get comfortable on that right side.
Dude, I don't like when players, especially if you're a winger, right? Like, you should be able to play on both sides. I know you have a preference, obviously, but like looking at the lineup, like why would you not want to play in the top 6? Like, I don't understand. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. Like, and obviously, I'm not a professional hockey player, Mike, but in my opinion, I think if you were able to play the left side, you should be able to play the right side.
Yeah, in our men's league games, we know it's easier. Last thing I want to touch on, and then we'll get into the teams. And the lights shine very bright now because of...
Yeah, you're a ghost right now. Holy...
Artturi Lehkonen.
Oh, there he is.
There he is.
So I'm surprised that they put him ahead of Nichushkin. Just because, like, Nichushkin as well had an unbelievable playoff and was a guy that was, like, talked about. But, like, I'm pretty sure they both went around... Nichushkin was a little bit higher ADP-wise, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, way higher.
But, yeah, Artturi Lehkonen, unbelievable take by you, first of all. Like, you were on him since the beginning. And, yeah, just had a great night. How's his stat line?
And, yeah, I have it up here. So Lehkonen, 2 goals, 1 assist, 2 penalty minutes, 3 shots, 19 minutes.
There you go.
Every point was on the power play, so 3 power play points. I got a text, so I have a friend that is a diehard Colorado fan, back to the Joe Sakic days, so not just last year. And he said, I cannot believe you own Artturi Lehkonen. What a great pickup. Line 1, power play 1, looks great out there. Guys, I think I might be adding him over Raquel just because of that. He's on that crazy top power play. But the one thing to note, I don't know what's going to happen when Landeskog returns.
I was just going to say,
this could be a very, very good sell high candidate in a couple weeks, depending on what happens. I don't know what's going to happen. My take is that Landeskog is going to be that number 2 center, and
I don't mind that take, actually.
Yeah, he's good on faceoffs. He's played center before. And I would rather have him there over Newhook, even though I know a lot of people like Newhook. But I mean, he's young and he hasn't really established anything yet in this league. But I think he might be the number 2 center, and I think that Lehkonen's going to stay on that first line, which makes it very, very intriguing.
I'm pretty sure him and Nichushkin are pretty flexible and can play the right side. So I'm curious. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do once Landy gets back. If they play him at center, like, obviously that tanks Newhook's value a little bit. But I think if they play him on the wing and they keep Newhook at center, he's somebody that I've just been kind of keeping an eye on. Like, young, like, should be, like, he was a first round pick for the Avs. So I'm curious to see, like, how he kind of progresses in, like, a higher role after being kind of stuck in the third line behind, like, Kadri McKinnon last year. But if they end up reuniting that top line, which I think there will be times where they're just like, yeah, you know what, let's put the big line back together. I'm curious to see what happens with Newhook, whether they slot him to the wing or third line center, because they do have JT Compher and Evan Rodriguez as well. So I'm keep an eye on the Avs top 6 as the season kind of starts off, and we can kind of get a better read on what's going to happen. But like, Nichushkin and Lehkonen, especially Lehkonen, both looked absolutely fantastic last night.
So there was 9 power plays in the game.
Oh, God.
There were 7 total goals in the game, and 6 of them were on the power play.
Wow. The refs are really just trying to warm up for the season, I guess.
Yeah, start betting the overs, guys, if all these power plays are gonna be yeah, it's kind of crazy. Anyways, so that wraps up what we've seen the first 2 nights, and it's kind of going to be what I think moving forward, we're going to have like a full week and record on
Yeah.
Sunday and be
Yeah.
able to talk about, certain players. But because it's only been 2 nights, we're kind of trying to get this out for you guys. We really want to hone in just the couple games that were played. Anyways, so we were sent, and I posted this on YouTube, and we were sent a lot of teams to rate. So I think we're going to try and have them on the screen for you guys here with some of Chris's or Clarky's professional editing. But we were sent some teams, and we're going to rate them for you guys. So the first team here, if you scroll down a little bit, Chris, is Migs in the Discord. Migs is a very loyal Discord, and he's very smart in the Discord too. So if you have any questions and we're not answering, listen to Migs. This guy knows what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like he had the first overall pick
Yep.
in his draft, and he went McDavid. And then in the second round, one of my favorite pairings, and I was told he looked extremely good last night, David Pastrnak,
Yep.
followed by Crosby, who I'm not a fan of, but I think at 25 it's fine because his ADP was about 19. Followed that up with his first defenseman in the fourth round, Chris Letang. I think I'm fine with Letang there. I feel like Seider was taken, who would be my census pick there. Drafted his first goalie in the fifth round, Frederick Anderson. And then unlucky drafted Laine and Marchand. Followed up with Marchand, who's going to start the year on the IR. Dougie Hamilton, probably one of our favorite defensemen this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Miro
as well. Yeah.
Yep. And then his second goalie in the 10th round, which I really like there. I like Merzlikins quite a bit this season. One of the highest upside goalies. And then Kopitar at 121 seems like good value there. These are tough when you have the first round pick, right? Because you don't pick for so long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if it's like you're picking back to back all the time, right? So
yeah. So McAvoy, Nichushkin, Sergachev, Tuck, and then ended his draft with Brock Nelson at 16. So it looks like he does have a few guys that are going to be starting on the IL, and he did message me that he added Hampus Lindholm and Lehkonen.
good ads.
So-
I just want to we can touch on his settings really quickly. I don't play in a lot of leagues where there's like decimal places for each category. But if you look at his roster positions here, like it's a pretty thin league. Like you're only rostering 6 forwards, 4D, 2 goalie, and then you only have like 3 bench spot. So I think he did a good job of using up those IR spots with guys like Marchand, McAvoy. If we look at his actual like categories, he had 3 points for a goal, 2 for an assist, 0.5 for plus minus, 1 power play goal, 1 power play assist, 5 shorthanded goal, which is interesting. 2 for shorthanded assists, 1 for game-winning goals, 0.25 for a shot, 0.2 for a hit, and 0.25 for a block, with the goalie categories being 4 for a win, -1 for goals against, 0.2 for a save, and 5 for a shutout. So goalies probably not a priority, I'd say, in this league. Like, obviously, it's nice to have good goalies, especially with the -1 for goals against. But I think he did a really good job with the first pick. Like, you talked about McDavid into Pasta. Like, I don't think you could get.
Okay, I was just saying, well, first pick. Well, obviously it's gonna be McDavid.
Yeah, no. Like he did a good job. Like
The second
like,
round, yeah.
with the second round and pairing up Pasta. Really, the only other thing that you're looking for here, if Pasta, would you go a D here? Like, would you take Yossi over Pasta?
See, we don't know who was available, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like Yossi was taken, but no, I'd probably take Pasta. Actually, no, I would take Yossi over Pasta. Yes.
Okay.
And with the back-to-back, you'd be able to grab both, right?
Yeah, that's the only thing where, just because it counts hits and blocks as well, I think Yossi's a little bit more versatile in that role. He should see similar shot volume to Pasta, but obviously, Pasta hits the goal category very well. Crosby in the third round, I think, is I know you're not a huge fan of him, but I think he's just safe. I think he's going to remind everybody this year why he's considered one of the best players of all time. He's just a very high floor, an extremely high floor player. And to get him in the third round, I think that's good value there. Letang I really like as well. You pair him with Crosby. Letang hits a lot. Should have a solid season. Should be like a 50, 60-point defenseman. And then you take your first goalie in the 5th round with Frederik Andersen. I think that's good value for Freddie as well. Like, goalies aren't, if you look at his stat category, like, they only hit 4 categories. But I think, like, getting a safe goalie early on, I like to do personally. Just not, I wouldn't take him in the first couple rounds. Markstrom may be the only guy that I take outside the first 2 rounds.
Yeah. So I'm curious. You know, first look, what do you rate this team? And a little blurb why.
So I think this team has a good mix of upside with a good mix of floor. Like, I think you got guys like Marchand, Kopitar, Sergachev, I think is just like hits all the peripheral categories. Crosby, Pasta, McDavid are also very, very safe picks. But then you have guys like upside with Dougie Miro. I really like his defense, especially if you picked up Hampus Lindholm. Like, I think you get Dougie Miro, Sergachev, and Hampus Lindholm. Like, that's a solid 4 defense to roster every night. And then you have just a lot of shot volume as well. So I like this team. What do you think?
If you were to give it a letter grade.
If I were to give this a letter grade, I would give this a B. I'm a little bit stingy with my ratings, like a BB plus. The only really thing where I thought I don't understand the Brock Nelson pick. Like, Alex Tuck is a little bit risky just because he's only shown like a very small sample of his play in Buffalo. It could turn out being very well, but I think I give overall a B. I'm going to be very picky with handing out A's this year. Like, it doesn't jump out to me like this draft shouldn't have happened type thing. Like, his team's that good, but it's very solid. So I give it a B.
So, Migs, I'm sorry.
Uh-oh.
I'm going to say C+. And my reasoning is this is arguably the riskiest team I have ever seen. Almost every single player has injury history, even in the last season. Crosby, Letang, Freddie, Laine, Marchand, Dougie, Merzlikins. Marchand, okay, that's he doesn't have injury history, but like
he's injured.
He's injured. Dougie. Sorry, I already said that. McAvoy, injured. Nichushkin, injury history. Sergachev, Tuck. This entire team is good if healthy.
Yep.
But this is a very, very risky team. You're going to be scrambling all season to place guys on your IR and pick up players. That is like the big negative to this team. Not my only negative. This is the big negative to this team is there's a lot of risk.
That's a fair point.
There is a lot of long-term upside with McAvoy and Marchand if they come back healthy and this team stays healthy. But you are heavily relying on this team to be healthy. There's not a lot of health on this team. Migs, you either need to hire the best doctor you can find or
here we go.
Be the best fantasy scout for your waiver wires of all time. That is my take. C+. And I think we can move on.
Migs, I think you'll be fine. I think you'll be good. I'm on your side, man. I don't know what to tell you. All right, who do we got next?
So we got a channel, the GOAT of the Discord. If you're in the Discord, you know a channel. This guy's the man. He's been in here since day one. He is a very diehard LA Kings fan, which I respect. Looking at his team, so I don't know if I want to be naming every player out. He didn't tell me what pick he had. I would assume he had the 4th round pick, 4th overall, given McKinnon's on his roster. So maybe 4th or 5th. And it is a 10-team strictly points league for what he said.
Strictly points. Okay. I was going to say I didn't see a category list or anything like that. All right.
So it looks like he drafted Landeskog, and he probably placed him on the IR. Didn't tell me who he added. And Brock Besser too. First look, what do you think?
I like it. I think you're a little goal heavy. I think there's certain guys that you could have gone, like Dubois, for example. I don't know where you took him, but to me, like, Dubois is not really like a high ceiling point guy. I feel like you could have taken a chance on a player like Jesper Bratt, for example, if he was available. I think they're around the same ADP. His defense seems pretty solid. Like he's got Ekblad, Burns, Bouchard, Carlson, Lindholm. Like that's good for defense. And then some really good depth pieces as well, like Jarvis Lekin in there. I like Brock Besser as well this year. I think Jacob Vrana is going to be good. And then he's got Trocheck as well. Like he did a very good job with his depth in the later rounds. I don't know what his goalie categories are, but I'm a little hesitant with his goaltending with Binnington and Merzlikins. I just think that like Binnington is the starter, but like which Binnington are we getting? Like he kind of was a little bit inconsistent to say the least last year, especially with how good Huso was. And then Merzlikins is playing on Columbus, who like I don't think is a very strong team. And if you count wins, for example, like is that something that you're comfortable with going St. Louis, Columbus, and like just being like, okay, let me just kind of punt that position and we'll make up for it in other areas. What do you think?
So it looks like goalies are weak given the scoring. So if you look at like his worst forward, which is Jarvis, it projects him for 162. And then Merzlikins and Binnington are at 145 and 161. So it looks like goalies are kind of weak in this league, given that they're by far the lowest scoring players. I think it's a good draft. He took a lot of high upside players, a lot of guys that we liked, and like I think you hit on it perfectly with just he has really strong depth. My injury take, there's not much here really. Point, I guess you drafted Landeskog, but that's fine. You knew he was injured. Ekblad a little bit, but overall looks like a safe team. I think you could have done better on your defense. Because
Really?
the forwards are absolutely stacked, and it is a 10-team league, so that means that there was likely a lot of like high-end defensemen available. Like Lindholm's gonna be good for a few months. Erik Karlsson's risky. Bouchard's a little risky. So you're kind of just relying on your two defensemen, and your bench doesn't have any defensemen. So I think D are a little weak. I think you could have dropped it better there, but overall, I think it's a solid team. I actually like this quite a bit, especially if it's just all points. A lot of high upside guys.
Yeah, I think the one recommendation I'd have is maybe pick up a guy like Kalen Addison, who should be available in that league. There's probably other defense as well, but I'm not big on Erik Karlsson this year. I know Don is, but like I think he's on the wrong side of 30. I get he's power play 1 now, but I just think there's better options available. Like I would rather have Kalen Addison, who was close to a point per game as a defenseman in the AHL last year, playing on a power play that has Kirill Kaprizov, than I would Erik Karlsson. But it's just in a points league, right? So
if you were to sign it a letter grade,
I'm gonna give this one a B+. I would have given it an A if his goaltending was better. Yeah, I'm just not confident in his goaltending.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say B. It was a good draft.
Yeah,
not elite, but good draft. I would like to see Jack Hughes in there.
That would have been a great pick.
You're the man to channel. You're the man. All right. Moving on here, we have Dakra. So he actually gave us his pick. So he was pick 7 in a 10-man league. I'm trying to think now a little bit, like for the people on Spotify that are listening, it's just hard to just like if we just name every player, but I guess I can go through it really quickly. Ovi, Gaudreau, Zib, Point, Buchnevich, Beniers, Mangiapane, Teravainen, Dobson, Hughes, Bouchard, Krug, Gudis, Wheeler, Kent Johnson, Barry, Barbashev, Verhage, Marchand on the IR, and let me scroll, Egoat, Ottinger, and Merzlikins.
Do you know his categories?
No, he said pick 7, 10-man league. Let me just quickly go to the message. Head-to-head points league.
Okay, so it's a points league.
He said, worried about my defense.
Yeah,
so,
I would be, just because of the guys that, like, number one, like Tyson Barrie, I think was a good kind of steal. I'm assuming you got him in the later rounds of your draft. I know that he is only like 60% owned or something. So I think that's a really safe play there. Other than that, like Dobson power play 1, Quinn Hughes is a great pick there. I think it just says like in a points league. And then you have Bouchard as well. But Gudis, I'm not a huge fan of. Krug, I get he's on power play 1 in St. Louis, but like not a terrible pick just in a points league. I would have tried to go with somebody maybe with a little bit more upside, but that's pretty safe. I do like his forwards seem kind of weak to me. Like you got Zib and Goudreau and Ovi. And Point, I'm sure like you kind of reached on a little bit, but that's justifiable. Mangiapane as well. Like it's just the depth that I'm kind of worried about. Buchnevich is pretty much a lock for like 55, 60 points. But the Beniers, the Teravainen, and then you have like Kent Johnson, Barbashev. Verhaeghe was a good late pick because he's playing first line with Barkov. But obviously your goaltending is very strong. Like I don't even think you need Merzlikins. Like you
can drop him.
You probably keep him maybe if you're worried about injuries, but yeah, I don't think you need Merzlikins. Like you'll get a good amount of wins just because of the volume that Igor and Otter are going to play this year. And then yeah, he has Marchand as well. So what do you think, Mike? What do you think about his D?
Yeah, D are a little weak. So what I'm seeing here a little bit is, it's like you could for a 10-man league, I feel like your whole team should be power play 1 players. Like I feel like you shouldn't have guys that aren't on power play 1. But again, it's a points league, so like
Kalen Addison.
Points league can mean so much too. Like it's hard. Like we need the categories like to fully understand, because Gudas is on the team, so hits are definitely a category. Sometimes when I think of points leagues, I think of just goals and assists, power play points, etc.
That's what I was
interpreting
so it
looks like
as.
there is hits and blocks. I just wish we had like the full range of
interesting.
categories
Okay.
are. But yeah, for me, I think it's kind of a weak draft. The D are weak. The depth is a little bit weak. There's a lot of kind of not downtrending players, but players that we weren't overly excited about.
I don't like a lot of his forwards, if I'm honest.
Yeah. But I think if we got a better sense of the categories, it could be a little bit better. But goalie in the first round, I think I'd pick 7 in a 10-man league. You're kind of handcuffed, but I feel like Rantanen was available there. And then the second round, someone like Matt Tkachuk or Ovi would have been available there, and he does have Ovi. So I'm not too high on Gaudreau this year. Who else? There's another player like Wheeler. I'm not high on. Barry. I'm not very high on. But I do like Marchand, so I think your team might be better a little bit down the road. But there's definitely a few drops. Beniers is a drop. Kent Johnson's a drop. Barbashev's a drop. Especially in a 10-man league, there's probably better available.
I don't like Wheeler either. Like I would sooner go with I'd probably sooner go with Cole Perfetti than Blake Wheeler, if I'm honest with you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give this a C. Sorry, Dakra. I don't want to make any enemies here, but I think you'd rather us be honest than to sugarcoat everything. I was gonna say buttercoat, no idea why.
Yeah, I'm also gonna give it a C. I don't see a lot of forwards that I'm excited about. Like, yeah, you have Zib and Point, but then the rest of your team is just kind of could go either way. Beniers, I feel was probably drafted too high unless you got him in the last couple picks of your draft. Wheeler, I don't like. Verhaeghe was good. I like that. Marchand's obviously solid, but it just seems like he went a little bit too much. And obviously, we don't have his categories fully, but he went a little bit too crazy with his goaltending. I think if you have Igor,
yeah, I agree.
You don't need to go and get a guy like Otter as well, unless there's you have 4 goalie categories. Yeah.
Or if he fell, if he fell 70, right? That's the only reason. But yeah. Okay. I think for time's sake, we can move on here.
Mm-hmm.
So this is Wendy in the Discord, and I think this might be our first A at first glance. This team is extremely good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks like it's forwards, D, goalie. So no position specific, and then it's almost every category: goals, assists, PIMs, power play points, game-winning goals.
Yeah,
shots,
this is a
hits,
crazy
blocks,
league.
Wins, goals against average, save percentage, shutout. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 8 skater categories and 4 goalies. So you can punt goalie pretty much at first look. So this is a 12-team league, and he had picked 10. So
this is like a lot of IR spots as well too, like 2 IR, 3 IR plus. So you can
Yeah.
definitely get creative with picking up guys like, and I'm just like I'm saying this without looking at his team. You could get creative and pick up guys like Duclair, like obviously the big names like McAvoy, Marchand,
Pacioretty's the other guy people are forgetting
Pacioretty.
about.
Yeah, Pacioretty's
Yeah.
a good one. I like that.
So
So pick
ahead.
one. The GOAT, Brady Tkachuk. He got him at 10. So he was drafting 10. And I think at this point, like you have the majority of people gone. And I think Brady is a first round player in this league because of the fact that it counts shots and hits
and Pims.
and pims. Like Brady, I think, especially if you count pims, I think Brady's a top 5 pick in this league.
Yeah.
So
It's a really good pick.
got him an absolute steal. And then Marner in the second round.
good.
Yeah, Marner in the second round, like he's close to 100 points every year. Like he had like 96 last year, so that's a really good pickup as well. Gensel, safe, shoots the puck a lot. And then you get more side of round 4 because he's
In this league too, again,
somehow
yeah.
still available in round 4. Following it up with Chris Letang. I love Chris Letang in any league that counts hits.
Blocks too, all that.
Blocks
yeah,
as well.
Really
Yep.
good.
Jack Hughes, our boy, at round
The
6.
first sighting. Jack Hughes.
That's a steal. Round 6, I think, is a steal. Kevin Fiala, I'm a little hesitant on Kevin F this year. Just for my own personal trauma that he put me through last year in fantasy hockey.
I think pick 80s is fine there.
Yeah,
pick
I'm
82.
not as high on him this year. I think he's the guy in LA now, and he's never had to be like the guy anywhere. So I'm curious to see how he does. Shabbat, round 8 is great. Like we're very high on Shabbat this year. Marchessault, high shot volume guy as well. Followed by Trocheck in round 10. And then round 11, you've got Elvis. A lot of teams with Elvis this year. I think just because
Yeah,
of
a
his
lot of guys
ADP, like he just would slip people's minds.
Yeah, these depth picks are phenomenal too.
Jeek is great in any league that has hits as well too. Good shot volume as well, and should continue to see that top center place alongside Kaprizov. Toffoli,
He doesn't play with Kaprizov.
he doesn't play with Kaprizov.
No,
Who's
Hartman.
is it Hartman? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Jeek is like that second line was still great last year though. Toffoli, good depth. Raquel, good depth. Kempe at round 15.
Yeah, this is an unbelievable team.
Really? Wow. I'm surprised he fell. I'm surprised Raquel and Toffoli went before him. Forsling, good D depth as well. Arturi Lehkonen, your boy. Pulak is very, very good with blocks and hits and shots.
Yeah.
Like he's
And
very,
the last
very
pick
good.
of your draft, I think that's so good.
Did I see a second goalie? Or was
Yeah,
it just
Merzlikins.
Elvis?
Oh yeah, you could be right.
So you do have 2 goalie spots.
Oh yeah, what happened there? Maybe he. Oh yeah.
I can
How are you
check.
even able to draft without? Okay, that's interesting. That kind of changes things, but I mean,
Yeah, I'm sure he's picked up a goalie at this point. He didn't mention to me if he did.
oh
But
yeah. So
sorry, he
yeah, so
dropped Pulak for Anton Forsberg when Talbot went down.
did he message you too?
He did. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So Anton.
So
Forsberg.
Anton Forsberg, which like he'll see a lot of volume to start. I think people are just still a little bit too hyped up about all the offseason Ottawa moves, and I think that their defense is still weak, to say the least. But
Is this an A?
I think this is an A. I think I'm
think
giving
this
out my
is an
first.
A.
Just because like you look at the first 10 rounds of your draft, and you have Brady, Mitch, Gensel, and then you got more side around 4. Bias. Jack Hughes round 6, Shabbat round 8, and then Trocheck round 10, who I think is just going to be a stud. And then the latter half of his draft is very good as well too. Like a lot of good depth pieces there, like Raquel, Kempe, Lehkonen.
And only 4 goalie spots too. So he did the smart thing and punted at goalie, which is exactly how I would have drafted. This is an A. You have everything you need.
Yeah.
This is a championship team, in my opinion.
Yeah. Thank you, Wendy, for sending that in. All right. Last
Can
team.
we get a timestamp? Where are we at right now?
We're at 1 hour 14 minutes, so we're just coming to the end here. So it'll probably be like
so
an
one
hour
more.
20. Yeah, we got one to go. We got Josh. This is
okay, yeah.
Josh B. Josh, thank you for sending in your team. He didn't mention what his categories were at all.
Yeah.
But
Oh, you can see them: goals, assists, shorthanded goals, game-winning goals,
okay,
shots, hits, and blocks.
All right, so let's start with his goaltending, just because I decided to put that in first. Saros, Swayman, Georgiev. That's
Panic sell.
panic.
Sorry.
I think like that's really strong.
Yeah,
that's really strong. Saros is just an incredible goalie, just for volume as well. Nashville should be solid again this year, and then you have two very good either 1A or 1B guys in Georgiev and Swayman. So like your goaltending should be lights out. Who do we got for defense? Or just
go to the go to the last picture.
Okay. Yeah. Malkin, Larkin. This is positions as well. So just like 2 center, 2 left wing, 2 right wing, and then 4D.
Yeah.
So Malkin and Larkin are centermen. Kaprizov, Connor, Marner, Duchesne are his 4 wingers. Yeah, pretty much. And then Moritz Seider and Devin Taves with Folk and Petrie rounding out his defense core. He has Beniers, Terry, and Gudis as his bench players. This seems really strong.
Yeah, that's a pretty good team.
Especially because it counts hits and blocks. Like, you got Moritz Seider there as well. You have Folk, who I think is a good depth piece, especially in leagues that counts hits. Petrie, I'm a little bit off, just because I don't know what his deployment is going to be like in Pittsburgh. He could see like top 4 minutes, which I'm assuming he does. But I'm just a little hesitant due to his recent history. But we'll see how he is on Pittsburgh. And then Gudis is another great like bench player. You can just throw in and win the hits category every week.
Yeah.
And Devin Taves might be the most underrated defenseman in the NHL, just from like a point per game perspective, because he plays with McCarr. And then Beniers and Terry, I think, are 2 solid depth options. Yeah, I think this is a strong team. The only I'm not a huge fan of his centerman. I think Larkin will have a decent year, but like Malkin, again, just got to stay healthy, right? But his wingers are unbelievable.
Yeah. So my initial take. Wow, we're near the end of this, so we're going to be stuttering a little bit. But, I think the issue with the team is there is a lack of position eligibility, and he might run into problems where a player goes down and you don't have you didn't draft a player to fill in. That's my only issue with this team, is just lack of position eligibility. There's no one, right? Not a single player that plays both positions. And I feel like in most drafts, there were a lot of really good players you can grab that played 2 positions. Do we have what pick it was? I'm guessing 6.
He didn't mention a pick. He didn't mention his cats. It was all just kind of there.
Okay. I'm guessing 6th pick with Kaprizov, and I think we can just use that. But
yeah,
I
6 or
really
7.
like the team. There's not a lot of risk on this team, and I know that's probably the one thing I've been looking at here. I think it's very solid. Malkin's the only guy, which is completely fine. And it hits every category. And I like what he did was he stacked up the forwards early and then picked late defensemen that hit on categories, is what my guess of this draft was. And I think Petrie's fine. I know he used to be a really good hits and shot guy in Montreal, then kind of fell off, and Montreal got really bad. So we'll see how he is on this better team. But I like the draft. I don't think it is an A draft. I think this is just a solid B. It's a good draft. You're going to finish in your top 4 in your league, with opportunity to finish in the top 3. But I think top 5, opportunity to finish in top 3 is a better way to put it.
Yeah, I think you're very short at every position. Like Mike said, that's a little bit worrying that you don't have guys that are at multiple positions, because that is a concern when you do play with positions, and it's definitely something to look for. You can probably look to your free agency and see if there's anybody that you could rather have other than a guy like Beniers. But I think you're very well rounded. Your goaltending is obviously incredible. I would look to potentially move a goaltender a little bit later on. I don't 3 goalie appearances for each week, and you have a very, very safe. You would have a safe duo with Saros and Georgiev, for example. So I'd maybe look to move Swayman a little bit later on in the year if he's playing well, and maybe get another defenseman, for example. But the only really weak spot I see is your centerman. Malkin's got to stay healthy, and Larkin's just got to continue to put up points. But I'm confident
this year.
Yeah, you don't count plus minus either, which is fine. But I like the overall makeup of your team, and I'm gonna give it a B+.
Nice. You tried to be the Simon Cowell of rating fantasy teams.
Yeah,
handed out
just
an A and 2 B pluses.
and I said I was gonna be tough, but like these teams are good. To be fair.
Yeah. Okay, so I think that concludes the first episode of the Fantasy Puck podcast. Let us know what you like. Any recommendations, anything you want us to cover. The length was a little too long. Was the audio bad? Was my face too bright with the light coming in from my my window here? But first opportunity at it. We're so happy to bring this out for you guys. Make sure you leave a like if you're watching on YouTube. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, guys. And follow us on Twitter at @fantasy_puck. Man, third guy in our team who's not in the camera, more of the back end guy, FP Don. He does a great job on Twitter, keeping you up to date with any line changes, minutes. He's almost ahead of us in some of the takes here. So
he is very, very active on the Twitter as well. Like
we're closing in on 1,000 guys. We're like 180
so close
away from 1,000. So give us a follow there. If you want to support the channel, head over to our Patreon. We also have premium in-season tools. Our trade analyzer is very popular during the season. You literally just type in 2 players and 2 players on each side, or a player on each side, or whatever trade you're making, and it will tell you based on our projections what trade is better. So, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, guys, episode 1. So just again, let us know what you think in the comments. Leave us YouTube, come into our Discord. I'm going to create a channel in the Discord for podcast topics. Just if you guys have anything specific that you want us to cover. I think as the season kind of progresses, it'll get a little bit more fantasy hockey focused. Just because a lot of it we'll be doing this podcast on the Sunday, so we'll be able to get like a better overview of how the week went, especially. But yeah, if you guys have any comments, suggestions, things that you want to cover, questions for us even, that will be a channel in the Discord that you guys can post, and we can kind of like pick and choose what we want to cover for that week. And as well as just leave a comment in the YouTube channel below. People on Spotify, definitely make sure that you hit that. I think there's a subscribe button or it's a follow button, excuse me. Guys, follow us on Spotify. We're going to be cranking these out every week, essentially. Yeah, like just throwing them out there. What? Okay. We'll try and cut down the time a little bit, but like an hour and 20 minutes is pretty long, but we'll try and keep it to under an hour for next week as well. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for listening. And yeah, I'm excited. For the season.
Music?
I'll see if I can find something, but all right.
Thanks, guys.
All right. See you.
Take care.